You can tell by the noise. This is Andy B back at the Gathering in a field near Swindon. Christian Vision for Men 2024. If you've not got here, and you can, I really would urge you to get here. I've met so many people that say it's changed my life. It's such an amazing place. I have to come every year. I come back every year. I bring more friends every year. So there's your little advert for me, Andy B, for the Gathering, which is fabulous. And we've interviewed some great people so far. We've Andy Godfrey, Sorted Magazine, with his new book as well. Steve Horn from Mercier, Nigel from Adventure Plus, Johnny D from St Andrew's Bookshop, Derek M from Jesus and the Jesus the Evidence, and right now before me, a new guest. Although actually, I've interviewed what it seems to be your boss. We won't go there. Hello, Keith.
Hi, how you doing? Great to be here.
Cool. Now, just tell us a little bit. What's the organisation you're representing today?
Right, so I'm here from the Christian Police Association. I'm part of the team that comes here every year. We've been coming since 2016. The CPA is all about bringing Christ into the police service and building bridges between the police service and the community, just to make life better for everyone, really.
And I believe you've recently retired. You're now a man who is free.
Yeah, I retired on Monday. Monday was my last day as a police officer after nearly 28 years in two police forces, and I'm not regretting it.
The 28 years or the retirement?
The retirement, yeah. No, it was time to go. It was time to go, yeah.
Fair enough. So 28 years, you've been in the force for a very long time. You've seen so much that's come and gone. I'm going to imagine, put my neck on the line here, but I would imagine that Jesus actually has been a consistency through that time.
Yeah, absolutely. So my first police station full time was Hemel Hempstead in Hertfordshire. Big shout out to anyone from Hemel Hempstead. And I was known as Dibley, as in the vicar. Was my nickname there. I was known as the Padre across two of my units. I was the Padre of custody. I was the Padre of the roads policing unit. And I've been well known as a Christian cop. But the one thing it's been consistent has been what I've been able to lean on, especially when I've had troubles, having been diagnosed with PTSD twice and lost some colleagues very suddenly in plane crashes and stuff like that. I've been able to lean on my faith, but also encourage others to do the same. And I've seen, as you've seen lives changed here, I've seen lives change within the police service with people who were on the verge of suicide come to Christ and live out full policing service with no problem whatsoever. So God has been good, and Jesus has been at the centre of it all for me. Yeah.
Fantastic. Police service, I mean, you're always going to get slated for this and that, because ultimately the police are the one people that can stop us from doing stuff, which actually, by the way, little Andy B tip, is possibly quite a good thing. So have you got some highlights from your time in the force? You think, you know what, I know there's some bad times and some hard times and some good times, but that is a moment where I just think that was worth getting to work that day.
Right, so before I was a regular officer, I was a special constable in my hometown of Watford in Hertfordshire for 2 years. And one evening, I came across a homeless man sleeping in I'm going to age myself here, the door of C&A in Charter Place in Watford. And it was a freezing cold night. And I checked him and asked him if he was okay. And he said, no, I'm alone and I'm homeless and I'm tired, but I'm all right. And I went down to the local McDonald's and I bought him a meal and a hot drink and brought it back. And he was dumbfounded, this guy. Why have you done that for? And I said, well, you're alone, you're hungry, you're cold. I'm a Christian, it's the right thing to do. And he said to me, what's your name? And I said, it's Keith. And he shook me by the hand and he said, I'll never forget you. And I dismissed it, that phrase. Anyway, about 10 years later, I was on traffic. I was a regular officer. I was on the roads policing unit on traffic, and I was working in my hometown of Watford, and I was an accident, and it was snowing. And a bloke walked past me in a suit with a briefcase, and he stopped and he tapped me on the arm and he said, are you all right? I said, yeah, well, it's a bit chilly, but I'm all right. And I've missed for dinner, And he walked off up the high street, and about 10 minutes later, he came back with a McDonald's. And he put it on the bonnet of the car and he said, that's for you. And I said, why have you done that for? And he said, you don't remember me, do you? No. He said, my name's so-and-so. And 10 years ago, I was homeless and I was sleeping in the door of C&A and you fed me. And he turned round and I never saw him again. And I stood there going, what just happened? Where I think sometimes as Christians, we don't see the fruit of our good work. But in that moment, I knew what I'd done 10 years earlier as a 20-year-old was absolutely the right thing. And God paid me back out of nowhere. And I still, to this day, am dumbfounded by that. So there's been really great days in the police where I've had some really great conversations with people about the gospel and been able to share the gospel with people in custody who normally don't talk to the police. And here at the gathering, people don't like talking to the police, you're right, because we never stop anyone to congratulate them on their driving. But you come here and people want to talk to you, and you can sit down, have a tea and a coffee and a chat. And I've seen people's lives changed here. So, yeah, it's not all been great, but there's been some really good days. Yeah.
I'm sitting here crying because that was a story. I didn't know where it was going to go, but I knew where it was going to go. I remember one time I actually was in town. My wife's much better than this and me. I had my boys. We had a rucksack with some food, and there was a homeless guy. And as I was walking up the street, I just saw people. They weren't kicking him, they weren't cursing him, they weren't shouting. They were just treating him like some sort of animal. And I knelt down, I sat on the floor. My boys sat around, and we got out some little pancakes. We gave him some water, and I think he was so shocked. Not that I gave him something, which I think some people do. Actually, I sat down on the floor next to him and chatted to him, which I've not done before, and it was such a powerful moment for me to just think I need to do this.
And that is very often the thing, that it's the people. I think as Christians we are called to. I always think it's the Good Samaritan view of how we should be, which we're called not to cross the road. We're called not to walk away. We're called to go up to these people and say, right, I see you now. We see you. What can we do to help you? And I tell the story of a guy who came into custody. So as a custody sergeant, all I did for 4 years was lock bad people up and spent more time with them, with my own kids, as I always used to say. And one day a guy came in, and it was again middle of winter, and he'd been arrested for shoplifting at Shoe Zone. Other shoe shops are obviously available, but Shoe Zone not. And he'd stolen a pair of, if I say deck shoes, canvas deck shoes, £7 worth of shoes. Why have I done that for? So because I'm homeless, I had my shoes stolen. And he was walking around the town with newspaper and cling film wrapped around his feet. And right, get a doctor out. His feet were in a terrible state. What size are your feet, me old mate? 8. Right. And I didn't go and buy him shoes. I hunted round the police station, and down the back of the lockers I found a box with an old pair of Magnum boots in it that had just sat there. And I went to my boss and said, you see these? They were stuffed down the back of a locker. I'm giving them away. And he went, why? There's a homeless bloke in custody. He's had his shoes nicked. Right. And I went to my locker and I got my spare pair of socks out of my locker, went down to custody. Right, put those on. There's your socks. Try these on there. Do they fit? Right. Leave them outside your cell. You can have them when you leave. And he said to me, what are you doing that for? Why? Well, what do you need? Shoes. What have I got? Shoes. They are. Be blessed. And whenever I saw him after that, years later, I went to watch Watford Football Club. Yeah, I am the Watford supporter, by the way. I went to watch Watford on a day off, and I was walking down outside the football ground, and there was a bloke sat on a wall, and he went, "Oi, Sarge!" I still got my shoes, and he was still wearing this pair of Magnum boots that had lasted him all that time, because there's need there. I'm not saying that stealing was right. I understand why he stole, but that's not for me to judge. It's for me to go, what's the need? Have a pair of shoes, be blessed, make your life better. And as cops and as Christians, that is what we should be doing.
I can sit and talk to you all day long, quite happily, but I need to move on. So thank you. Just give us a little bit about the CPA. So how do people find out more about that? Maybe they're a police officer and they're thinking, do you know what, where do I get support from? Or they're thinking, what's all this about? Where do people find out more information?
Right, so the CPA, it's all about bringing Christ into the police service. If you are a Christian cop listening to this and you're not a member of the CPA, I would just say firstly, why not? Do you know who the other Christians are in your police force? Probably not. If you just Google Christian Police Association UK, you can go on the website, go to join us, click join. It's one click. There's a form. You fill it in. When you click send, it goes to CPA headquarters. We do all the work. When I say we, our admin team do all the work behind the scenes. It will go to the branch leader in your police force who will contact you. You don't have to do anything else. And you gain support from knowing the other Christians around you, because there will be, for people in churches, there will be a cop in your church who's struggling, probably, because a lot of us are or were. Put them in touch with the CPA. Get in touch. with the CPA so that you get the support of other Christian cops around you who know where you're coming from and know what you're dealing with. It's changed my life, being involved with the CPA, absolutely, without doubt. It changed my life and my view of policing and how I've addressed my work as a cop by being more involved in the CPA, and I can't sell it enough.
And you did a good job doing so. One of the things that strikes me when you look at the examples of Jesus in Scripture is he didn't just say to people, right, get on your knees, repent. Yeah, maybe, but actually he would say, okay, what's your need? And often it was healing, but he would deal with the need. And once you deal with the need, all of a sudden it gets easy to talk to the person. And I guess with that guy in the police station without his shoes, yeah, stealing's wrong. It's always going to be wrong. You can't justify it. It's wrong, period. But there's a need there that can be met. And if we meet that need, well, he won't have to knit the next pair of shoes, will he?
Yeah, that's the point. It's very often there's a reason behind why someone is doing what they're doing, and it can be whether it can be substance abuse or poverty. Sometimes we need to meet that need. And in my new job now, I've retired. I'm going to be running a food bank in my local area in Scotland. So I'm going from helping people, but with a big stick almost, to now helping people just because it's the right thing to do as a Christian, running a food bank and helping people and getting into the real crux of why people need that help. So, yeah, it's I could just encourage people just to pray for your cops. That's really, really important. If you're a Christian listening to this and you're a praying Christian, which you should be, remember your cops, because that's vital.
Keith, thank you so much for that time.
Did you know Pure 24/7 Radio has a shop? Well, we do. You can buy merchandise while supporting the work that we do here. Simply head over to www.pure247radio.org/shop. That's www.pure247radio.org/shop.